Hello, I'm John Chadwell. Some of you may be familiar with the name. I used to work at Bonita Link for several years, wrote a few hundred articles that you may or may not have read. But anyway, last year I retired from journalism, which I had done for about 50 years, to concentrate on my books. I've written 8 books, all self-published, and they're all on Amazon if you want to check them out. But I wanted to talk about my latest book called The War Elephant. It is my first book through a publisher who happens to be in Gilroy. And I just wanted to talk about it a little, how it came about, and a little smidgen of what the story's about. Anyway, I was talking with this publisher, and the publisher asked me if I could write 3 books targeting the 17 plus readers. Now, plus, I suppose, could be up to 80 years old. But I think kids younger than 17 might like this book if they're into history and they're into, the warrior culture and this adventures and that kind of thing. And that's what this book is. And it takes place in Carthage in the 2nd century BC. And it is during what they call the Second Punic War. There's 3 of these wars. The First Punic War was led by Hamilcar Barca, and he lost. The Second War was led by Hannibal and his 3 brothers. And then the Third Punic War was basically Rome against Carthage, and Rome actually came to Carthage during that one and literally wiped Carthage off the face of the map. It hasn't existed in several thousand years. But anyway, this publisher asked me if I could write 3 books for the young adult market. And the first of them is The War Elephant. I got the idea for The War Elephant from having read a biography several years ago about Hannibal. And I thought he was a fascinating character. And he was the ultimate warrior. And he took the fight to Rome, and he almost beat him. He had a tragic ending, as did his entire family. But I had to write this from the perspective of a teenager. So I was trying to figure out, because the war went on for 17 years. So I had to figure out how to keep him a teenager, basically, throughout the whole story. So he couldn't go through the whole war. Anyway, the story starts, and the boy, his name is Titus, and he is only 2 when the story starts. And he appears as a normal child, happy, everything. But right after he hits 2, it becomes apparent that something's really wrong with this boy. Well, he's autistic. And back in the 2nd century, they didn't know what autism was. They probably thought he was possessed by the demons. And in fact, the local priests try to get the father to give him up in a sacrifice, which they would kill the boy. The father figures out a way to get him out of it, but he still has to do something with the boy. So by the time he's 5, he's not communicating at all with people, but he is with animals. The father notices that the boy has a special affinity dealing with animals, in particular elephants, because this guy, the father, he is a local entrepreneur, basically, and he is a trader throughout the Mediterranean area. But at home, he operates a lumber business, and he uses elephants to haul the lumber. And one elephant in particular, her name is Cirrus, and she is an anomaly, a genetic anomaly, because she is twice as big as a normal African elephant. And so the idea is to team these 2 up, the elephant and the boy, and see what happens. Fathers and sons were a little bit different back in the 2nd century. So he's teamed up, but the father has no idea what's going to happen when he introduces Titus to Cirrus. Well, it's miraculous what happens. The boy and the elephant instantly bond in a way that's just indescribable. I try my best to describe it in the book, how it evolves. And by the time the boy is 13, he's a highly functioning autistic boy. And they are legends. The two of them are legends throughout Carthage because this elephant is not only outworks every other elephant, it can outcompete three elephants because she's pitted up against three elephants during a elephant pool contest during a local festival, and she beats them handily. Well, one man in the crowd that's watching is Hasdrubal Barca, Hannibal's brother, and he's recruiting for the army to once again march on Rome. So he convinces the father, who is the legal owner of the elephant, and to let his son and the elephant join the army. They do, and they train for several months to go to war. And along the way, in a 900 ship fleet across the Mediterranean Sea, a young girl from Syria named Cleopatra, not the Cleopatra of Egyptian fame, because Cleopatra back then was a pretty common name. In fact, Alexander the Great's own sister was named Cleopatra. She comes involved with Cyrus and Titus, and they all end up in Hispania, which is Spain today, and the march over the Alps. There's tragedy going through the Alps, and thousands of men and most of the elephants die. And they make it into Italia, modern-day Italy, and get caught up in the war. It rages for years. Well, I had to figure out how to get the boy out of the war to keep him a teenager, so I found a natural point in the actual story of the Second Punic War, and the book is based on the war, pretty accurately, I think. And the boy, the girl, Cyrus, and another elephant managed to escape, and the adventures continue. Anyway, you can pre-order it, the War Elephant. You can pre-order it at Hills, downtown, or you can pre-order it at Amazon or Barnes & Noble. We'll be doing a book signing June 21st. That's a Saturday around 9 o'clock in the morning, and I hope to see you there, and I hope you buy a few books.